Heavy metal rock.
Global mind.
I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on My Global Mind, we are speaking with Ripper Owens of KK's Priest for the release of their new album, The Sinner Rides Again, due out September 28th. Welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
Great voice. Always have loved you.
Thanks, Robert. I appreciate it.
So, yeah, this is your second album with the band. I'm assuming things are going extremely well for everything.
It's going good. It's going good. It's nice to finally start getting out there and playing some shows and showing what we got.
That's nice. Tell me about the pivotal moment that you realized that there was a special chemistry with you, KK, the rest of the guys, that this band was going to be something very special.
Well, I really knew it right away. I mean, I've known the guys for a while, and Sean and I, the drummer, we've played in the Three Trimmers, and he's played with me on solo tours. And but you know, Ken and I just always had a great chemistry, and he's such a great guy and so easy to get along with. He has a lot more energy than I have, that's for sure. And he complains a lot less than I do as well. So that's a good thing. But you could tell right away. And I remember our very first show we did at the Steel Mill a while back. I could just felt it. Actually, you know what? To be honest, when we recorded the first record, and we did a video shoot for the record, and you're on stage kind of live doing the video shoot 8 million times you're doing a song. I could tell then. It just felt like we were a band together for a long time. So it just feels natural and great.
Cool. Have you always called him Ken, or do you always call him KK? I mean, I've always referred to him as just KK.
I'm still never sure if I'm allowed to call him Ken or not. So I don't, I think, you know, it seems, I remember in Priest, it wasn't said as much. Ken wasn't said as much, but then as it went on, I just noticed that people call him Ken a lot more than I realized, but it depends. It's funny because I'll do these interviews and half the time I call him Ken and the other half the time I call him KK.
It always throws me when I hear Ken. I was like, oh yeah, KK.
Yeah. It is funny because I'll say KK part of the time and Ken the other half of the time.
It's all right. You can interchange. We know who you're talking about now. You know, with KK at the helm of this band, he could, with his music and his riffs, he could have gone in any musical direction that Priest had put forth through any of the eras. What made him, do you think, made him go in the direction of more of a thrashier metal sound, very, very heavy, almost like Demolition?
I think he's just writing like KK Downing. I think, you know, listen, he's obviously, when people tell me, they'll hear these records and they'll go, yeah, it kind of reminds me of Priest. And I'm like, well, I mean, KK wrote songs for Judas Priest for 50 years. I mean, this is how he writes. Now people understand how much of an intricate part he was of Judas Priest's writing process, because but I think you just write songs on what you think is right and the best songs, you know. And I think what also makes it sound a little ballsier and heavier is probably the vocal approach I have. You know, I mean, I just sing like me, and I have a little more aggression in me sometimes. And but I think he just writes. There's no certain path he wants to take. He just writes songs.
That's great. You know, that was kind of leads up nicely to my next question, is that there's familiar elements of, you know, Judas Priest in the guitar riffs and in the playing, and then there's the unfamiliar aspect of the thrash, the heavier sound, but it feels really comfortable and familiar to listen to. Tell me about striking that balance of delivering what fans want to hear from like a Priest type of sound post Demolition, and allowing the band to experiment with new music and new material.
Yeah, it is a hard thing sometimes. You do want to please everybody. You know, I know your main goal is to first and foremost to please yourself. Really, you want to be happy with what you're doing, no matter what it is. But you also have to have in your mind that you have to please your fan base.
Mhm.
And you want to not only please your fan base. I think especially with this new record, I think with the Centerides again, I just talked about this in the last interview, is how it can bring other people in to it as well that might not have liked it. The first record was more of the classic roots.
Mhm.
Even the sound, when we engineered it and produced it, mixed it, we wanted it to have more of the classic sound. This one we wanted to branch out with a little more modern edges to it, with the mix, and have it ballsier and have it. But you want to please everybody, but I still think you go into it pleasing yourself. And I think if you're true to yourself, doing what you do best, you're going to please all your fans as well.
Yeah, that's a great sentiment, and I agree 100% with that. You touched upon this earlier. KK's playing and music and the band is getting fiercer and fiercer. There's so many bands that as they get older, they're getting softer, they're getting folkier, they're getting more watered down, like the Bruce Springsteens and the Bon Jovis. KK is getting more fierce with this stuff. It's incredible. What's the drive? What's the passion behind it?
Well, first, I think he's been away for a while, and he's got a lot to prove. I think he just wants to show the world what he can still do, and what we can do. And he just wants to do the best. So I think, it's crazy. We'll be at rehearsals and they'll be all day long, and I'll be just, I'll be over there laying on the floor doing some yoga or something. And Ken will just be standing there talking and going through his stuff. I'm just like, or I'll be like, I posted something one day and I said, there's Ken talking over there. And I had a picture of my feet and I said, I'm over here taking a nap and Ken's there talking sound man. And, his drive, and this means a lot to him. The fans mean a lot to him, and his means a lot to him. And, all bands just want to do their best usually, but some bands change a little bit, and it's not an issue with that. You just do records that you think are right for you, at the time. And I think with Ken's absence for a while, listen, I've been fortunate that I've been continually making records. My last solo EP was pretty thrashy and aggressive with Rip Return to Death Row. But then before that, I did A New Revenge, which is more hard rock oriented. So I've been fortunate that I've continued to make music and write music and release music. Ken's been gone for 10 years and he has a lot to prove. And he's an energizer bunny, that's for sure.
Well, I'm glad he's back. I'm glad you're heading it up. I think it's a great band, and I've really loved the last two albums, this album and the first album. So I think it's pretty strong. You talked a little bit about the evolution from the first one, from the production standpoint, to the second one. Where do you see the band evolving and growing to? How do you see it moving forward? Where would you like to go?
I think now we just want to try to get out and play live.
Right.
The issue with that, really the only issue is we're only doing it with a good production and a good show. So it's very expensive to go on the road nowadays and do that. So that would be if we were going and playing small theaters or something, or playing theaters, and we just had a backdrop and whatever, you could tour and do it. I mean, we have 12 crew members, and it's a big production. We got a lot of fire, a lot of pyro, screens, ego ramps. I mean, it's really a big production. But I see us just wanting to tour. Our agency's TKO, and we want to get out there and play music. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, as Ken used to always say. And when people have seen these live footage of us at these festivals, I mean, it's been overwhelming. The response has been absolutely amazing from these shows. I mean, 99, and listen, this is in a day and age that people just like to complain all the time. People complain about shows and set lists, and this is what I would do, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's the most amazing thing I ever read. People who sit at home and do nothing in the music industry all of a sudden became, professional analysts on what you should do. But we haven't seen that. I mean, this has been 99.9% positive, like people are blown away by it. And as far as to say them showing up to the shows, not expecting it, to be that great, or expecting to be what it is. So we bring it not only on this new CD, it's absolutely amazing. The shows are just out of this world good.
Yeah. I don't think you've ever played in the US, right? I've seen the footage of the KK Steel Mill, but I've never seen really anything in the United States.
We haven't yet, we've started off, which is even harder to start off playing festivals. I mean, in the last 3 festivals we played, we had the full production, the full screens, and the full everything. So it's been really big production. And yeah, the goal is to play here in the States. We just got to get the right package. It's hard not to go on the road and lose money nowadays. So all that's being put together now. These first 6 shows that we've done, especially these last 3 shows we did, Bloodstock and the festivals we did, Alcatraz, and when we played Spain and Belgium and England, those were showcases for what we are bringing and what we have. So that's what we wanted to do now. So now we can start, TKO can start really working on getting it. America, obviously, it's the metal in America, right? People they always say, oh, I wish America was like it. America's great, man. Right now in America, metal is great.
Yep. I agree.
So we're looking forward to doing it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a resurgence to metal coming back and heavier metal coming back. I think it's tremendous. And I think a lot of it is Metallica also leading the charge. I really think they're bringing it back full form.
Absolutely. And then you have bands like Iron Maiden that continue to tour in giant shows. People don't realize when a Maiden tours America, they'll play here in Akron, Ohio, in front of 17,000 people with no opening band in an outdoor place. And then they'll go 2.5 hours down the road to Detroit and play the same thing. And then they'll go to 2.5 hours, 4 hours to Chicago and play the same thing. So, I think especially classic bands, Metallica, of course, and Maiden doing these giant shows. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It is. No, I think it's great. I've been talking with more and more artists, particularly metal, and I love it. It's like yourself. It's great. One of my favorite tracks on the new album is Hymn 66. What's the history behind that song?
Well, I think the big thing about this song, I always love to describe it as, when you write good lyrics, and this record has great lyrics on it, Ken wrote them, and you write something that people can take different interpretations out of the song. You'll have people that go, it's when you write heavy metal, you can write about anything. So people look at this and go, oh, it's religious, it's this, it's that. It's a metal song that when you read the lyrics, you can interpret what you want out of it. The best part about this is like when the choirs are singing, and I think that's the great thing about it. So when people read these songs and these lyrics, they can take different things out of it.
No, that's great. I like that. You could leave it your own interpretation of how it should be and what it's about. When you're writing lyrics, where do you pull your inspiration from? Because these are really dark and these are really heavy lyrics.
Well, like I said, Ken wrote these ones, and because he really wants to take control and do this himself, which I totally agree. Because listen, like I said, I did I've wrote 2 records for the band called Pyramid, my solo EP, this, that. I've written a lot, and the way I do it is I take a lot of lyrics out of what's going on in life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've written a song that was on the Spirits of Fire record that you can interpret as somebody committing suicide at the end, or somebody changing their life for the better at the end. You could actually, you couldn't tell exactly what it was about. It was just about depression and being in that state. But I also will write, a song about, just because it needs to be heavy metal sometimes for the fans, I'll write it about Beyond Fear had the Scream Machine, and I'll write songs about aliens or things I don't really know about. But I'll look them up and go, okay, vampires or night stalkers or whatever. But most of my lyrics come from everyday life, which usually is pretty dark. Not my life. My life's not dark at all. But I just look around and see what people go through, and the depressions and the crazy political world we've lived. We not just that we live in now, that we've lived in for a long time. And not that I don't go to different sides, and I don't necessarily say it's political, but it's still about the state of things. But you can just go to, I think that's what's great about heavy metal and hard rock. You can write about anything, I mean, if we, it could be just so many different topics, and that's what's great. That's what it's nice. You know, people sometimes will go, "Oh, those lyrics are cheesy." Well, I mean, it's heavy metal. I grew up with songs like Turbo Lover and Parental Guide, you know, Anna James Dio, Fighting a Dragon,
Yeah.
and that's what we came up with. And when people say, "Oh my gosh, that lyric is cheesy," I'm like, "What did you listen to? I mean,
Yeah.
what are you comparing it to? I mean, it's lyrics."
Right. It's supposed to be fun. I mean, listen to any Van Halen lyrics. None of them even make sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, you touched upon it earlier. I know you love of Priest. You were in Priest, of course. How much of on this 2 albums is trying to emulate Rob a little bit, and how much is your own personality brought into it?
Well, I've never actually tried to. I mean, you know, it's funny because people will say you kind of sound like Rob. It's like, well, that's just the style of singing I do. And the other half of the people say I sound like Ronnie Dio, and then the other half of the people say I sound like this guy and this guy. It's like, how about I sound like Ripper Owens? I mean, I go in. I have a very wide range of vocals. I could sing like Sepultura 1 minute, and I could, you know, sound like that. I could sound like a Dio style song. I could sound like a, you know, clear high notes, raspy high notes. This album pretty much says it all. That's what it has. I never ever think of sounding, especially like Rob. I never would do that, and I didn't when I was in Priest. And even when I sang the classics, I sang the melodies and the songs how they're supposed to be sung, but I sang them like me.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer of singing songs how they're supposed to be sung, melody wise, not making my own, not changing the song up. Yeah. You know, here's the reason. I can actually sing a song how it's supposed to be sung, so I don't need to change it. I don't need to sing it lower.
Mm-hmm.
I need to sing it in a different melody to try and get through the song. Fortunately for me, I can actually sing the songs how they're true to the melodies, but I sing it with my voice. So when I sing stuff, I just sing like me, you know, and
yeah,
I have a pretty wide range of vocals.
Yeah, I really loved what you did with Yngwie Malmsteen. You know,
yeah,
13 years ago. Fun. So
yeah, it was fun with Yngwie. It was pretty funny because it was so easy in the studio where I would do a vocal track and then I would come out and I go, all right, let me go. I could do it better. And you go, oh, no, that's good. You'll lose the feeling you had on it. Just keep that one. And I was always like, oh, I think I could do it better though. Oh, no, this is good. It's fine. Let's move on.
I saw you at the Gramercy Theater. I think, what is it, 2010, I'm guessing, in New York City. Yeah. And you really brought your own voice to that band and at the time, and you really made those songs your own. It was really about you more than, and the melody. It was terrific, you know?
Well, he wanted that, you know, he wanted more aggression in his songs.
Yeah.
He's a big fan of Ronnie Dio. Probably Ronnie might be his favorite singer. And he just liked that I brought this aggression thing to it. And before me, Doogie was singing, Doogie White was singing in the band, and he was an amazing singer, man. I mean, he was so good. So, and is an amazing singer. And, but it was fun. It was different. I really went into Yngwie because it was a different crowd for me. I figured, man, I could win some new fans from this stuff. Yeah. I could have a whole new crowd see me. So it was I had a great time.
Yeah. And when on that album too, I never thought for 1 second you sounded like Rob, or, you know, I always thought that was you. That's Ripper, and that's his voice. And that's what I loved about the album.
Yeah. And I think when people hear this record, well, any record I do, I mean, obviously because I hit high notes, it's really funny because I don't hear people saying, wow, Rob sounds like Ian Gillan, because Ian Gillan hits high notes, or, you know, Dion or something. But it's just that I sang in Judas Priest and hit high notes. So it has to be, well, he's trying to sound like Rob. I'm like, I've been singing for 30 years. Even before I was in Judas Priest, I made original records. I don't know what else to do, but it's always going to be that because I sing high notes, and even though I'm more aggressive and I sing different, it's just always going to be that comparison. But I always just like to tell people, listen, how about it's kind of like when they say KK's songs sound like Judas Priest. I'm like, how about the songs sound like KK Downing?
Right.
Same thing with me. How about the songs I'm singing sound like Ripper Owens? It's about time somebody says, well, you sound like Ripper Owens.
I wanted to get your opinion. What did you think of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction with Judas Priest? And was there ever consideration to bring you on to stage with that?
I don't know. they never called me, thanked me. The only time Judas Priest calls me is to say they're going to sue me or something. But no one reached out. I'm glad Ken went in. I'm happy for KK. And yeah, you know, I was just shocked that I didn't even get a mention, a call from the band, or you know, almost 10 years and a Grammy nomination and all that. But you know, I would have liked to have heard a thank you, or maybe on stage a thank you, but you know, it's not shocking, and that's what happens.
I thought they handled the whole thing well with Ken, and because I'm sure you've read all the books, Rob's books, you've read KK's books, you know, so it was really nice that it did come together. And I was kind of surprised that you were kind of like left out of it. And I felt bad for that situation, because I know you've contributed so much, you know.
Based my part of Judas Priest history, so it's not shocking. It is really great for Ken, other than after it was all said and done, the management threw him under the bus and said bad things about him in the press. But Ken had nothing but great things to say about it. He said he had a blast, and it was great seeing the guys. And I like Ken's perspective on it. And when we talked about it, he said how great it was. And I'm just really happy for him. I'm happy for all the guys. I mean, I love them to death, and Glenn and Ian and Scott and Rob, and well deserved.
Yeah, I love them too. They're my heroes, and I was really excited to see that, at least to some degree, coming back together and working it out. And I thought it was a tremendous performance. I love the band. I
love the fact that even though I've been erased, I still call them friends and family, including Rob. I love whenever I see Rob somewhere and we talk, and I love watching him, and I love that his voice is sounding so great again. And you know, it's a shame that I've been erased, but it doesn't change the fact that love the guys, and it was a great time.
Yeah, that you were there. It's kind of like Gary Cherone in Van Halen. He's kind of erased from the history of Van Halen. It's a shame too, because his work was outstanding in Van Halen, you know.
Yeah, and it's nice that Maiden didn't erase Blaze, so that was cool.
Yeah, I agree. You know, this is probably out there, but I never really thought to ask you before. It just hit me. Where'd you get the nickname Ripper?
Well, I sang it at the audition. I sang Victim of Changes, made the band. And then they said, all right, let's go to dinner and have fun. So I'll sing another one while I'm here. And they put on the Ripper, and I sang through the Ripper. And then Glenn's kind of started calling me Ripper. He's like, hey, we need to give you a nickname. And then he wrote Ripper on a piece of paper or something, and he just kind of started calling me that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It's a great story. Well, listen, I hope you guys come to New Jersey, New York soon with the show. I would love to see it. You know, KK hasn't been here in a while, so we'd love it, you know.
I do too, and I know Ken's itching. Like I said, TKO's booking it, and
good.
Ken's itching to get, especially after these last 3 shows we did. He's really itching to get out there, because they were fantastic, and the crowd was fantastic, and the guys in the band, the show. So we're ready for America.
Good. I hope to see you soon, New York or New Jersey.
All right.
Thank you so much, Ripper. It was really a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for everything today. Fantastic interview.
Thanks, Robert. Good talking to you, buddy.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Heavy metal rock.
Global mind.